Part 101. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziwei. Chapter 1007. The blazing sunlight shone in a long narrow valley. On the two hills around this valley, a strange tall plant grew, resembling a cactus, but they were all grayish-white. The visible speed is growing wildly. More than 800 miles away from this valley, there is a quagmire accumulated by sewage, countless pieces of vestments that do not see the color, and the rotten carcasses left behind by unknown monsters, and a stench of breath emanates from it. Come out. On the hillside on the side of the valley, a few strange plants like cacti that have grown to more than 10 feet tall are underneath, but a very simple stone house is piled with mountain stones, and in front sits a 28-year-old looking, a sick young man sitting on a bamboo chair. The face was a little pale, with more than 30 monks gathered in front of the young man in the sleeve of a long grey leather robe. One rejuvenation pill requires 20 inferior spirit stones. Daiyu, your price is a bit too dark at the moment. More than 30 monks were swearing, and several monks were still angry. Spit a few saliva on the ground. However, the young man who seemed to be sick seemed to be accustomed to such a scene. After some people scolded it, he smiled slightly. You are just like the things before the sky dome broke, everything is rare and precious, you must be very clear, within tens of thousands of miles, I am afraid there is no way to regain the pill. Now I am at this price, maybe the entire Tianqian continent, somewhere else it is not necessarily higher than my price. But your price is too high. Right now, the sky dome of our Tianqian continent is broken. Our monks should support each other, how can we take the opportunity to make a profit? A middle-aged monk still said indignantly. If you really think that this medicine is too expensive for me, I have another way. As long as you hand over 2 magic weapons with a mid-level or higher rank, I can guarantee to bring you to a safe place. This sick young man, the person smiled slightly and said, as far as I know, Shenxianzong has set up a monk settlement less than 30,000 miles away from here. Once there, go to another big city under the control of the section, very safe. 2 magic weapons with above mid-level spirit rank. Deist, you are a big lion. Daiyu, even if we give you 2 magic weapons of middle-level spirit rank, what guarantee do you take to safely send us to the area controlled by Shenxianzong? Some sick young people were about to open their mouths to answer the questions of many people around them, but suddenly they turned their heads slightly and looked toward the sky on the left. I saw that in the clouds above the left side, a dozen more escapes suddenly fell, and soon fell into this valley. Most of this group of monks are sword repairers with long swords on their backs. They all give a sturdy atmosphere. Headed by a black leather armor with a gloomy face and a dark green sword on his back face monk. This batch of sword repairers fell, but the original 30 or so monks were all in awe, because the repairs of these batches of sword repairers are not low, especially the head of this square face monk's repair has reached a point 5-fold late. I can't think of anyone here who got a foothold here. When this group of more than a dozen monks fell, they all looked a little suspicious. Boy, those engraved on the ground in those wastelands, saying that there are handwritings such as Wikidon, healing elixir, etc. that you left behind. After glancing at everyone, the square-face monk headed directly said the young man who was arrogantly looking at the sick. Yes, the nicks in the wastelands everywhere are left by 11 and his companions. The sick young man smiled slightly and said, do you want to come back here? 20. 1 inferior spirit stone. 20 times a piece of spirit stone? Your price is too cheap. Fangface monk laughed, followed by more than 10 sword repairers suddenly laughed. It seems that the Taoists do not want to do business with sincerity. The sick young people were not angry, but instead smiled and said, if this price is too expensive, for you, it is fair. The price of... Oh, what a fair price, Fangface monk said with a smile, looking at the sick young man. Take your life in exchange, the sick young man said lightly. Take my life in exchange? I think you still give me your little life and all the Wiki Dan. Fangface monk laughed loudly, the flying sword on his back suddenly turned into a black python, toward the sick young man was strangled. More than 30 monks who had been there suddenly changed color and avoided them one after another. The sick young man smiled without moving. I saw a red brilliance suddenly flew out of the humble little stone house behind this young man. With a click, the black flame of the black flame was suddenly torn apart. The laughter of Fangface Monk suddenly stopped, and he looked at his chest in disbelief. A hole in the size of a wash basin appeared on his chest, and his body almost nearly broke into two. Immediately, the square-faced monk was charged twice in the throat, and fell back to the ground without any sound. When behind the monk with the square face, a sword repairer wearing a green vestment had just sacrificed a flying sword, but his head was directly knocked off by a red brilliance shot in a humble little stone house. The flying sword fell here, without a headless body. After shaking, it fell back to the ground. For a moment, all the sword repairs on the scene were faceless, and all the other monks were looking at the small stone house behind the sick young man with a horrified look. In the eyes of these monks, this sick young man, who only had two different ways of thinking, suddenly became terrible. If you really do business with me, my partner and I will naturally give a sincere price. If you don't want to do business with us sincerely, you can only change your life like this person. The young man still smiled slightly and nodded the stone house behind him. You only asked me what guarantee I would take to send you to a safe place, and my third brother just promised it. Brother Lu, what do you think? Not as good as our magic weapon. The more than 10 sword repairmen who arrived later were still faceless, while the more than 30 monks gathered here were already tempted. The monk who had not appeared from the small stone house. Judging by the power of the two Huaguangs, I am afraid that they are at least two major monks. Suddenly, at this moment, the sick young man who had been smiling suddenly turned back slightly. In the small stone house behind him, a short-haired monk suddenly walked out. This is a tall, calm middle-aged monk. His hair is crimson and his roots are erected like a burning flame. He is wearing a dark golden vestment. His vital parts such as the front chest and the back heart have several groups. Yunjin-like runes, a pair of crimson leather boots, also lingered around this powerful mana wave. A crimson aura emerged from this person, but it condensed into a crimson furnace above the head. The flaming blaze above the crimson furnace is like a real flame. Jindan triple. A monk saw this person's cultivation behavior. All the monks at the scene took a breath of air. This person's cultivation behavior was even higher than everyone's imagination. It turned out to be Jindan's triple monk. Third brother, what's wrong? The sick young man saw the imposing short-haired monk stepped out and immediately stood up and asked. The short-haired monk said nothing, but just looked at the sky ahead. For a moment, an escape light appeared in the sight of everyone, walking towards here. Dozens of monks came again. Headed by a young man in a green shirt and a big-faced man. Senior. It seems that it was just the young man in the blue shirt who had just seen the head. The monk with short red hair stepping out of the stone house immediately shook his body, and his face changed a lot to the young man in the green shirt. Senior, at the sight of this scene, the sick young man and all the monks present suddenly flashed a shock in his eyes. The young man in the blue shirt from the sky looked very ordinary, and his body was not aura. But he followed his dozens of monks, and the look on his face was very awesome. Are the handwritings carved in the wilderness everywhere? Are you left? Are you a monk of his own? Before the young man in the blue shirt and all the monks who followed him fell down. The young man in the blue shirt looked at Jindan. Me asked the crimson short-haired monk. I wait for the monk who was originally a black wolf. Our Black Wolf is a small casual repair organization in Lingxiao City. The red short-haired monk said in awe, bowing. It's not safe here. With your cultivation base, if you have a powerful monster, you may not be able to escape. The young man in the blue shirt glanced at the scarlet short-haired monk. Since you dare to stay here, still leaving handwriting everywhere casually, attracting people to do business, there must be a way to get away safely. What do you rely on? It's no secret, our black wolf, there is a teleportation circle before the mountain inside, and it reaches thousands of miles away. After reaching there, it is relatively safe to rush to the area controlled by Sheng Xianzong. What? It turns out that there is a teleportation circle in the mountain here, the monks on the spot yelled in their hearts when they heard the sentence. Where is the specific area controlled by Sheng Xianzong? Asked the young man in green shirts. In that direction, the monk with short red hair immediately nodded toward the west. This scene is extremely weird. A golden monk's triple monk was in awe of a young man who looked ordinary but very extraordinary, just like the ordinary disciples in the sect met the ancestor. The sky dome ruptured, the original hidden talents were all revealed. Unexpectedly, in an ordinary loose repair organization, there will also be a Jindan triple monk. The young man in the blue shirt continued to speak out. But this sentence seems to be talking to himself. After saying this with a sigh, the young man in the blue shirt looked at the monk with short red hair again, said, I don't care how you did it before. Next, if there are any monks coming, you will try your best to send them to a safe place. Unless there are powerful monsters crossing here, the teleportation circle can't be saved here, you can leave. As for the benefits, I will give you some benefits. Thank you, senior. The monk Jindan with short red hair took a deep breath and immediately bowed as if he had been released. The younger generation will do the same. The young man in the blue shirt didn't talk much. He reached out a little, and a treasure trove came to the Jindan monk. If you want to go to the area controlled by Sheng Xianzong, go with me, and if there is no accident, I can deliver you there safely. After the young man in the green shirt points out the treasure, he is facing the person who is behind. The monk said so again. Thank you, senior. The senior is surnamed Wei. The priest with red hair and short hair Jindan received the treasure, and looked like a sweat, and could not help but quivered. Why, where have you seen me? Otherwise, by Xiu Wei alone, you won't know my surname is Wei. The young man in the Qing shirt slightly moved his eyebrows and looked at the monk. The juniors are fortunate to have seen the prestige of their predecessors in Tianjian City that day. Hearing the young man in the blue shirt, the red monk with short red hair suddenly shivered, and said with respect. It turns out that, since you know, even if you do things for me, keep it here. If someone who you can't deal with comes to embarrass you, you will report my name. It's just that if you don't do what I say, you should know the consequences. The young man in green shirt glanced at the monk and said. The junior knows that the junior takes the senior to the circle. The monk with short red hair immediately paid another salute and turned towards the small stone house at the rear. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 1008. Chapter 1008 is also taking you sick, asking for your life. Everything settles. The harvest of this great treasure battle was not too much, except that the treasure receiving pocket on the cultivator that was killed by immortal slaying vine was almost completely preserved, and was later surrounded by annihilation golden core and everyone. Almost all of the shapeshift great art great treasure and the treasure receiving pocket on the cultivator were destroyed, and only a few cultivator golden cores were left. Immortal slaying vine great treasure on the nameless desert island has lost about half of it. Many immortal slaying vines have been interrupted by Zegan, and they have grown up and recultivated. But this battle was won without the lust of Weisuo, and the other is a grand sect and 2 divine mystic. This victory makes everyone on the nameless island very excited. The strength of our Dongfu is so strong. There are so many powerful shapeshift great art great treasures, Master has accumulated so much, and they still don't open the Zhongli faction. Long Muxing was so excited that she was in tears, only to feel that she was really great treasure, and she was lucky enough to follow such a good master. I knew that I wouldn't trigger the induction sensor beads, and I don't know what he would be like. Jia is also very excited. In her mind, they prove that they have the ability to protect themselves. We cannot worry Weisuo. It's much more important to get a lot of good things after World War I, but she can't help but blame herself. Never mind, I'll subpoena him right away. So he and Ling Longtian as long as return to Cloud Spirit Continent will know cannot be so anxious to come back. Yin Liwai a slight smile, continuously stimulated a few flame, at the same time also took out a few blackwood carving little ghost shaped of the shapeshift great art device, stimulated out, we still don't spread out, or the other side may ambush in the dark secret place sneak attack. I didn't even kill a golden core alone concocting pills. Old man Old Lu is very depressed, blowing his beard and blinking, very unhappy. He stayed at Heavenly Profound Continent for a long time, and Heavenly Profound Continent Heaven's Dome broke again. The secret place is a beast. The monster beast in his treasure receiving pocket must be piled up. It is necessary to reproduce so many immortal. Slaying vine is not difficult. Nangong Yuking looked at it, but he was already thinking about recultivation. Too enough to watch, two divine mystic also want to attack us. Han Wei waved. This is also a desert island. We also have a name. I think we will call this island the Island of Destroying God. All right. After all, they just destroyed a group of golden core great treasure cultivators. Two divine mystic great treasures can run away. It's probably not proper to kill God. It's almost like a god. Several concocting pills and the old academics of the array are arguing. What? Among the jade temples of Sea Immortal sect, Xuanhuan old ancestor holds a black ghost-shaped shapeshift great art, and almost slid from his great treasure seed. The strength of their place has actually accumulated to this extent. Lian Yutang Li's Honggai, your two boys are coming in for me. After a while, Xuanhuan old ancestor, who has completely recovered from the moment, immediately called the great treasure and put away the black ghost-shaped shapeshift great art. Took out a jade talisman and remembered something to go in. Master, what? Lian Yutang wearing a yellow shapeshift great art suit and Li's Honggai wearing a black shapeshift great art suit soon appeared on the door of this great treasure hall. The two outstanding young disc rims of the 2C Immortal sect are a face. The horror, I don't know what kind of great treasure happened. Give me the message from this jade talisman and let the entire Cloud Spirit Continent spread as fast as possible. And, all of us, see Immortal sect disciple, including you, don't use your original face from today, so as not to be vented. Xuanhuan old ancestor reached out and pointed jade talisman in front of Lian Yutang and Li's Honggai. What? Immortal Ascension sect master arrive in person, great treasure defeat, just swept the contents of jade talisman. The two outstanding young people of Sea Immortal sect suddenly changed their face. Master, I know. Then, without the slightest pause, the two young men with shocked eyes and shimmering inexplicable surprises went up and rushed out. What? Immortal Ascension sect master prorate inside the great treasure batch golden core cultivator attack Wei Suo's Dongfu, the result of the great treasure defeated, lost at least a dozen golden core. Wei Suo is not in the Dongfu, Immortal Ascension sect master and the great treasure of the golden core cultivator in the door, just lost in the hands of Wei Suo's several Dao companion. Wei Suo's Dao companion, is this strength? What? Immortal Ascension sect is not only Immortal Ascension sect master, a divine mystic great treasure, but also a divine mystic great treasure called Zantai Linglan, and the result is also defeated by great treasure. A message quickly shocked the entire Cloud Spirit Continent. Immortal Ascension sect took Wei Suo out of Cloud Spirit Continent, attacked Wei Suo and Dao companions Dongfu, and was beaten by Wei Suo's Dao companion and a group of friends. Lost 7,788, even the true disciple and old antique characters of Immortal Ascension sect are almost dead. Initially many people don't believe this news. Especially in the news, Wei Suo is still alive, which makes many people feel incredible, because everyone knows that Wei Suo has fallen into mortal body turns into wood after sweeping Sky Sword sect. But soon, more amazing news came out. First, there was a gossip. The Immortal Ascension sect master was revived because it had previously suffered a great treasure loss in Heavenly Profound Continent and Wei Suo, and wanted to level Wei Suo's Dongfu. In that battle, achievement and virtue sect master has fallen into the hands of Wei Suo's. Achievement and Virtue sect master fall. This news is really amazing, because heavenly profound continent many people know that Achievement and Virtue sect master is already the strongest of divine mystic third layer. However, these news have become more and more popular. Many people have confirmed that many of the top cultivator sales of the Achievement and Virtue sect and the Immortal Ascension sect have disappeared, and the rumors have been eliminated in the most direct way. Gee, have they already done it themselves? Wei Suo stood in front of the notice board in Coffin City and was dumbfounded. Western Immortal Dwellings Heritage Shapeshift Great Art sent him and Ling Longtian directly to the wilderness near the edge of Cloud Spirit Continent, so he and Ling Longtian rushed to Cloud Spirit Continent to compare it to Immortal Ascension sect master ETAL expected to be much faster. When the great treasure battle broke out in the nameless desert island, he and Ling Longtian had gathered in Coffin City before Yin Corp's section. There were few cities. Like Jiya's fear, he was naturally anxious, but what he didn't expect was that when he rushed to Coffin City, the news of the Immortal Ascension sect great treasure was passed and the secret place was passed. Although this kind of news is shocking enough, but it can be transmitted so fast, it must be that some people secretly hired countless cultivators, and the caravans are helping to spread the news. Without the spread of the caravan's sound transmission talisman, the Shinopi transmission flame and other shapeshift great art devices, the news will not be so turbulent, and the news will be discussed in the great treasure streets of the city. And this news is definitely true. Because there is also a place in the notice board in front of the news, and it is Jia, Yin Liwa and their pre-ordered secret words, the record is more detailed than the news that is circulated. This message may only be Jia and Yin Liwa, who passed through C Immortal sect and Yin Corp's sect. The purpose is obvious, that is, telling him that he can fix his mind, he has already done it, not so anxious. However, seeing such news, Wei Suo himself still feels unbelievable. Immortal Ascension sect master and Zantai Linglan, but two genuine divine mystic great treasures, with a great treasure pile of people, actually let their own bunch of wives beat the water, but also left a great treasure piled body naked body. What's so surprising is that they have a total of 3 shapeshift great art great treasure close to immortal artifact, so most immortal artifact and 3 spirit and Lizi, plus Dongfu decorate, as long as they are not silly to directly rushed out and each other desperately, as long as there is no divine mystic 4th layer great treasure can be in, even if more than one divine mystic a 2nd layer's great treasure can, how can they? Ling Longtian sneered at Wei Suo's reaction, but sneered at Immortal Ascension sect. I actually want to take advantage of it and I kicked it into the iron plate. I dare to take the opportunity to attack my Dongfu when I was not there. It seems that it really doesn't have to go back first. Standing on the bulletin board, hiding the figure, it is still a chunky cultivator dressed up by Wei Suo heavily. Don't go back first. Boy, what are you going to do? The surging sound of green-robed old man suddenly rang in Wei Suo's ear. I want to Shaijing Hao, for everyone to see, and Immortal Ascension sect accumulation should be more amazing than the Sky Sword sect, just can see, there is no can be used for the robbery of things. Wei Suo and Ling Longtian like sharpening teeth. Wei, if not Immortal Ascension sect to trouble me, this time I broken Jade domain with ancient spirit, at least can be promoted to divine mystic 3rd layer middle stage base, cultivation immortal, ascension. I lost so much, I must at least get some money back. Kid, do you want to go to Immortal Ascension sect, want to level the Immortal Ascension sect gate? Green-robed old man screamed and screamed. Zantai Linglan and Immortal Ascension sect master have suffered a lot of injuries, and a group of golden core great treasure cultivators are almost dead. Their home is just the most empty time. They want to take my illness and kill me. Why can't I take them for their illness? Wei Suo he smiled. Go to Immortal Ascension sect and see if there is no chance, then if there is a chance, then we will level the Immortal Ascension sect and let those who dare to touch our minds to see. Good. Green-robed old man was suddenly excited. Achievement and Virtue sect master was killed by you anyway. Immortal Ascension sect hit it up, and Achievement and Virtue sect didn't have a powerful role at all, Sweeping Immortal Ascension Sect. Now is the best time. Let's go. Wei Suo looked at Ling Longtian and saw that Ling Longtian glanced at himself and didn't want to say more. He knew that Ling Longtian didn't object to his plan without a slight stop. He immediately turned to a secret in Coffin City. Place sends shapeshift great art to the past. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 1009. Chapter 1009 Fairy. Latency. Immortal Ascension Sect, a great treasure temple carved out of a white jade and without a trace of stitching. Immortal Ascension Sect Master Han 11 sits on a white jade great treasure seat, sitting underneath, both it is an important figure of Immortal Ascension Sect. This person seems to be prepared to be disconnected directly from our Immortal Ascension Sect, but simply believe it, an Immortal Ascension Sect elder in a purple-red robes made a low anger. No shapeshift great art, open secret place and take out the fairy. Immortal Ascension Sect Master's face showed a near crazy look. What, Sect Master, you have to use Immortal Ascension Immortal Embryo. Immortal Ascension Sect in this language, all Immortal Ascension Sect cultivators in the Great Treasure Hall are completely discolored. Sect Master, never. With Sect Master's current cultivation base, if you use this fairy, you will be swallowed up by this fairy. A skinny one left only a bone, like the sly Immortal Ascension Sect old antique, too horrified, stood up straight. So far, there is no other shapeshift great art, and as a person's heart, as long as you return to the Cloud Spirit Great Treasure, you will immediately kill us. The person I asked for was too late to come. Only use the fairy. Even if I am swallowed by the fairy, I can at least retain a part of the will. The fairy itself has the brand of our Immortal Ascension section. I was swallowed up and only to our Immortal Ascension sect for a sect master. This time all because I made a mistake, I didn't expect his secret place. The cave house had such amazing strength accumulation, and Immortal Ascension sect was introduced into this situation. I must bear it. Immortal Ascension sect master stood up, took a deep breath, and his face became stunned. My mind is decided, you should not dissuade it. Sect master, the only remaining Immortal Ascension sect old characters are pale, but they can't wait for them to say anything. A surging sound is already ringing. Shua. Immortal Ascension sect master's face changed, and the figure flashed, and it has already swept out of the Great Treasure Hall. The Great Treasure Hall is located in the central region of the Immortal Ascension section. The surrounding place is a temple surrounded by white clouds. At first glance, it is impossible to see the end. It is a great treasure of the ages. Meteorological. At the moment, the entire Immortal Ascension sect has been completely alarmed, and many of the escape lights have been launched. Sect Master. The Wei surnamed cultivator has been flying in the Fixian mountain, which is 3,000 miles away. The old figures of Immortal Ascension sect Master and Immortal Ascension sect swept out of White Jade Main Hall, and several real-time brothers of Immortal Ascension sect swept up, and his face was pale to report. What? He is already here. All of Immortal Ascension sect's old-fashioned characters changed dramatically and slammed. Sure enough. I can't think of coming so fast. Immortal Ascension sect master's face showed an unusually cloudy look. Continue to keep an eye on this person's whereabouts, elders, follow me on the secret place and take out the fairy. What? The rumors turned out to be true, Wei Suo did not fall. Immortal Ascension sect's Immortal Ascension city has been completely shaken. Almost all cultivators have put down the task at hand, plucking out of the city, stunned toward the east side of the city, secret place, facing Immortal Ascension sect looking at the Fixian mountain at the main entrance of the mountain gate. Han 11, you give me out? If you have the guts, come here and fight me. You don't want to deal with me, I have already arrived here, you dare not come out and fight with me. Don't take me away, attack me Dongfu. A group of innocent sorrowful mice, let me out. The top of a beautiful barren hill, which is as high as 1,000 feet, looks like a surging sound. Hong. 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 Two terrifying divine mystic breaths, constantly surging sound in the air. A Saiyan figure stood on the top of the mountain. The terrifying breath and pressure on the body shook all the clouds above, causing the sky to fall into the beams of two giant great treasures. Within a few hundred feet of the circle, the clouds were covered. Water spirit chi was full of energy and it was raining. Everyone was shocked and no one dared to get close to the miles of Fixian mountain. Because there is a constant roar of anger, from time to time there is a round of grey ruin with a devastating atmosphere and a white Sumi divine mountain with a great treasure, hitting the square, sliding in the sky, at least 500-600 the area inside. This is the real God King's anger, the world is discolored. Weisuo, which has smoothed Sky Sword sect, has not fallen, and the meat has not died. Immortal Ascension sect is not a sham for attacking his cave. Weisuo is roaring outside the Immortal Ascension sect, and no one dares to come out with the Immortal Ascension section. The news was spread at an alarming rate and spread throughout the Cloud Spirit Great Treasure. Everyone reacted completely. Weisuo didn't fall. Double divine mystic powerful energy can't be faked. I am here waiting for you for 4 hours. If you don't come out to fight in 4 hours, I will attack you directly on the Immortal Ascension section. After the time of a stick of incense, Immortal Ascension sect still did not have any cultivator to fight out. Within a few thousand miles, all cultivators heard the Saiyan figure of Fixianshan mountain and the surging sound. This sentence, Saiyan figure nailed like a nail to the foothills, stopped all movements, sat down and waited for the cultivator of Immortal Ascension sect, but the two divine mystic breaths of the two giant treasures still shake the world and make the top of the Fixian mountain mist is fiercely changing, as there are countless gods and gods surging. 4 times, I used to go to great treasure before, and I suffered this change. Weisuo, you are too great treasure today. Give me so much time. If you dare to attack my mountain gate, you will definitely let you die. No place to bury. Among the Immortal Ascension sects, the Immortal Ascension sect master and dozens of important figures of the Immortal Ascension sect have all gathered together in a white stone mountain. Located on the western side of the Immortal Ascension sect, this white stone mountain is hundreds of feet long, round at the top, and looks like a white giant pillar. Like a white giant pillar, the entire stone mountain, only the top of which is growing a yellow-colored divine wood. This divine wood looks like a peach tree, and it must be surrounded by one person. The naked body is a bronze brilliance, and most of the great treasures have been cracked, emitting a variety of thunder glow. Heavenly fire, astral wind. This divine wood seems to be the best thing to survive under heavenly tribulation. Immortal Ascension sect master and others all gathered in front of this divine wood, and there is a side of Science shapeshift great art mirror, which is full of glory, but it is the scene around Weisuo on Fixian mountain thousands of miles away. Turned it out. Weisuo in Xingyi is sitting at the top of Fixian mountain at this moment, and coldly looks at the position of Immortal Ascension sect. The ancestor is on the top, and the younger brother is not stunned. This is the only change. Immortal Ascension immortal embryo is taken, and I will revive this Immortal Ascension sect. Weisuo, who looked at the picture full of murderous aura, said that Immortal Ascension sect master had been in front of this divine wood. This divine wood, facing his place, has a talisman made of some strange golden jade, exuding a strong ancient desolate and an extremely majestic atmosphere. The ancestor is on, please move the fairy, kill this child. All the Immortal Ascension sect cultivators gathered in this secret place were also worshipped. 4 quaint white square table-like platforms were sacrificed. With the splendid light, 4 white square tables on the road, the brilliance of the brilliance formed a white light column that hit the golden talisman on divine wood. Ka. The golden talisman fell off the divine wood and floated empty. At the same time, divine wood's trunk cracked open, and a group of bright yellow ochre crystals came out with a terrifying true immortal chi. Immortal Ascension Immortal Embryo. This is the Immortal Ascension Immortal Embryo. From our Immortal Ascension sect, almost all of the Immortal Ascension sect cultivator present was extremely exciting and shocking. What is this to the great treasure, Immortal Ascension sect? There is such a thing. At the same time, among the secret gates of the Immortal Ascension sect, Wei Suo was completely shocked. Everyone didn't even think that he had no intention of directly attacking Immortal Ascension sect from the beginning. Before he roared on Fixian Mountain, he had already secretly stunned a sister of Immortal Ascension sect outside Immortal Ascension City. Son, I asked the identity of the Immortal Ascension sect and how to get into the Immortal Ascension section. After roaring on Fixian Mountain for a while, he left the body double Immortal Talisman who used the desolate race heritage to deceive all of them when they were in the cold great treasure. Body double Immortal Talisman not only can transform the naked body, but also can produce the same pungent great treasure atmosphere. Even if divine mystic great treasure can be in rive in person to view, it cannot see the real. Now everyone thinks that he is staying on Fixian Mountain, but no one has thought that he has already sneaked into the identity of the Immortal Ascension sect, and has sneaked into Immortal Ascension. Among the sect, when the divine wood trunk split, the sky's great treasure light and breathtaking atmosphere were felt in almost all Immortal Ascension sect gates. It was a true immortal chi of Pangret treasure, and like the real true immortal, Wei Suo was extremely shocked. At this moment, I hid in this quiet room and sacrificed the 10,000-mile search mirror. The scene that came from it made him completely shocked. Divine wood's trunk split, and the one that flew out of it, swaying terrifying true immortal chi, turned out to be a 7-inch bright yellow twilight villain. This little man is curled up in a naked body, crystal clear, like an embryo, a true immortal embryo. Shua. This bright yellow enamel fairy rushed out, and a pressure directly suppressed all the Immortal Ascension sect cultivators present. Even the Immortal Ascension sect master was no exception. Seeing this bright yellow enamel fairy will fly directly, the golden talisman suspended in the air suddenly shines, a flash, hidden in the forehead of the bright yellow enamel fairy, the entire bright yellow enamel fairy through the naked body. There was no shapeshift great art, and it was captured by Immortal Ascension sect master. What the hell is this? How could there be a breath of true immortal? It seems like a true immortal that didn't grow up. How could there be such a weird thing? Green-robed old man is also extremely incredibly connected to great treasure. This thing definitely can't make him use it smoothly. Go. I am going to hold the higher status Immortal Ascension sect cultivator and bring Ling Longtian in with me. Wei Suo didn't stop at all, and used the mirror shift great art mirror to sneak out and swept out. At this moment, he and green-robed old man know that they don't know what the Immortal Ascension sect's fairy is, but he can be sure that this thing must be different. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 1010. We learned that Yuhang's mainland monks invaded. Several monks fled to the area controlled by Gujianzong, and the monks themselves were in the area controlled by the Wujin Palace, about 30,000 miles west of Gujianzong. Su Lingfeng shook his head and said, but a group of monks in Yuhang mainland pretended to be surviving monks. After the Wujin Palace released the prohibition and let them in, they suddenly started. He killed several top figures in Wujin Palace, and then defeated Wujin Palace and the monks of Tianxian continent gathered there. If they were not the monks of Yuhang continent, they were also afraid of monsters and dared not chase them down. Otherwise, all the Tianxian continent there will be killed or captured, and no one can escape. After a slight pause, Su Lingfeng continued, the monk sent by the ancient sword sect to explore the road the other day disappeared bizarrely, and the ancient sword sect later had a monk to investigate, and found traces of the monk's fighting skills. The monks of Yuhang mainland will be detrimental to them, so the monks of these ancestors around us have almost rushed over in secret, and our ancestors of Shenxianzong and Mayunzong are also there at the moment. Only me here, Monk Jin Dan, sits in town, otherwise the senior will personally bring people in, and our two sect masters will definitely come out to meet the senior. So, are you several sects now allied? Wei Suo asked Su Lingfeng afterwards. In the present situation, relying on one or two of us alone, even if we can survive this beast tide, there will be very few resources in the future. Su Lingfeng smiled bitterly. To be honest, we rise. Although Xianzong and Mayunzong saw the opportunity quickly, almost 2 cities were evacuated here, but the number of monks lost on the way was also amazing. The scale of the ridge is not as good as the smallest city. Only a small amount of Fangshi can provide some magic pill and magical tools, and these numbers are also very limited. Even if the monster beast and the monster material suitable for refining the magician material accumulation, there are many more, but other materials needed to cooperate with the refiner and alchemy are very scarce. Even if it is collected in the future, with only 1 or 2 monk gathering points, the manpower for the refiner and alchemy is simply not enough. At this time, at least half of the monks of Tianqian continent have fallen. Even if it is calm now, the cities can communicate with each other, and the supply of magical tools and spirit pills on the market in the next few years will be less than half. And the monsters are rampant when going out. The danger is even greater. The days of surviving monks are very difficult. All things have to be saved. The old man in green robe could not help whispering in Weizhuo's ears. Do you know which monk of Yuhan continent attacked Wujin Palace? Wei Suo continued to ask. I don't know. I only heard that the few surviving monks said that among the monks who attacked them on Yuhan mainland, there were at least 3 Jindan monks, and one of them was wrapped in a white robe. In the middle, I can't see the figure at all, and there is no united enemy in the Wujin Palace, and several powerful figures are killed by a tragic white brilliance shot in one face. Su Lingfeng took a deep breath. Replied. It wasn't until this time that he had spoken so much with Weizhuo before he seemed to be able to breathe in front of Weizhuo. Wei Suo's prestige and that inexplicable breath were really amazing for him, giving him the feeling that there was always a giant mountain above his head. These are the monks I happened to meet along the way. You take them into the Centipede Ridge. I also want to take a look at the Centipede Ridge, by the way, Wei Suo said after a little groaning. Wei Suo has been acting very calmly now, entering the Centipede Ridge, just to see with his own eyes to determine whether everything Su Lingfeng said is true. Senior Wei, please. Su Lingfeng did not hesitate and turned to lead the way ahead. Soon, the pedestrian Weizhuo entered the area shrouded in white spirit mist. A huge wall of fine gold with a height of more than 20 feet, shimmering in the cold iron of the forest, quickly appeared in the sight of everyone. The place established by Shenxianzong and Mayunzong has a total area of 200 miles. All the buildings are very dense, and the buildings inside are also made of fine gold, and they all form a circle, which is also like the city wall of the same circle. OM is not so much a small city, but rather a huge fortress. All the ground in the city is also made of thick gold, which can prevent monsters from entering the ground, and there are many towers like the Tianjian Tung Hall in the city. These towers are also made of gold, and they are all around the body. Covered with blocks of enchanted beasts engraved with runes, like a shield, there are only a few small windows on the entire tower that only allow monks to cast magic weapons. These high towers, if there are not a large number of high-level monsters, the low-level monsters alone may be difficult to break. At this moment, in this huge fortress-like city, there are dense monks everywhere. Almost most monks are not submerged, but are increasing the prohibition as much as possible to enhance the defense of the surrounding buildings. In such a city, the defense power is dozens of times that of the previous city. The old man in green robe saw this kind of scene, and could not help whispering after staying for a while, I don't know where they got so many finds. Golden. Everyone is afraid of death now, and there is a spirit stone that can't buy things at the moment. Most people will naturally take out all the things on their bodies. This is the nature of humanity. When the crisis passes, most people will become selfish and plot themselves. The selfish interest will not be like this now, Ling Longtian snorted coldly. It should be temporarily safe here. You should stay here. I will leave here and go to see where the ancient sword sect is. Seeing the situation in the city and what Su Lingfeng said was nothing. In and out, Shenxianzong and Mayunzong built a new city here, and did not completely oppress and enslave other monks. Wei Suo and the dozens of monks behind him left. Thanks to Senior Wei's life-saving grace, I will remember it in my mind. Dozens of monks behind him all thanked each other, and Su Lingfeng's face was also a rejoicing look. If Senior Wei goes to ancient sword sect, then no matter how many monks come from Yuheng mainland, they all seek their own way. Strong and more powerful, no one knows whether there is magical power in the sect or from the mainland of Yuheng. I don't want to spread the news that I am going. After Wei Zhuo specifically explained Su Lingfeng's sentence, he and Ling Longtian floated away. After passing the Silent Continent and his entourage, he has learned a lot under such circumstances. It is likely that Shenxianzong and other sects are passing messages through the sky and flames. This method of spreading flames through thousands of miles can quickly spread the news to tens of thousands. Outside, it's faster than Wei Suodong's virtual footwork. Amidst a valley, an area hundreds of miles in a circle was enveloped by a layer of blue aura. The periphery of this hundreds of miles area is an abyss with a width of more than 200 feet and a depth of 600 or 700 feet, making this area surrounded by blue aura of light like an island. The abyss that surrounds it looks like a huge moat, in which countless brilliance flashes. Obviously there are still a lot of prohibitions. Many of them escaped, and apparently there were at least hundreds of monks inside to continue to arrange the magic circle and ban. Above the cyan aura, it wasn't that a group of escaped light took off, and a pair of patrols went around, just like the enemy. In the blue aura, the defensive posture is also excessive. All the buildings are gathered together, layer by layer, piled up like a hill. In addition, there are only a few small windows that can be used to cast spells between all buildings. If there are monsters or other monks, then you can only destroy these buildings before you can kill the monks inside. The highest point of these buildings is a white jade palace. The whole body of the palace is completely engraved with the mystery of the mysterious mystery. However, inside the palace, it is a reception hall, with many white jade lotus seats. However, on one side of the wall, there is a prohibition. The crystal light flashes, and the scenes of thousands of miles around it are constantly displayed. At this moment, there are 10 or so monks in the palace. All of them are extraordinary, all with the majesty of the superior. Originally, these monks were all talking about something solemnly, but suddenly, several of them suddenly looked at the wall in surprise. Seeing this, other monks were stunned, and then they all looked at the enemy. I saw that in the picture. The sky gleamed in the distance, and a light spot appeared, and then the light spot flashed, and it moved an amazing distance in the void. Someone, such an amazing escape, a monk exclaimed in a loss of voice. Almost in the blink of an eye, the light spot jumped several times and became a lot of joy. There seemed to be 2 figures in the feint. When? Immediately, a horrible alarm sounded, and the monks who patrolled outside had also noticed this escape. Deng Guang approached at an alarming speed, but inside was a young man in a cyan vest and a red-faced big man with 5 short and 3 thick faces. How is this possible? Among the white jade halls, a monk dressed in a yellow veil and a middle-aged monk dressed up to see the appearance of the young man in Xingyi suddenly called out in disbelief. Brother Xiao, how do you recognize this person? All the other monks immediately asked quickly. This person's face is exactly the same as the one who wiped the Tianjianzong. The middle-aged monk dressed up took a deep breath and said, horror. What? How is this possible? All other monks were suddenly shocked. This person is very powerful, and I have seen this person with my own eyes. Don't move easily. I went out and saw this person first. The middle-aged scribe took another deep breath, without a pause, and turned into a yellow light directly. Schemed out. Asterisk. Dear friends, Merry Christmas, the next chapter should be tonight. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Reading URL for mobile version. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziwei. Chapter 1011. Predecessor is Wei. As soon as the middle-aged scribe in the yellow jersey swept out of the hall, he immediately uttered an inquiry to the young man in Xingyi. Yes, I am Wei Zhuo. The young man in Xingyi stopped, glanced at the middle-aged scribe in yellow shirt, nodded, and his eyes flashed slightly. The sword lights of the two youths suddenly flew out from the front of the young man in Xingyi at the same time. After two huge circles were drawn in the void, they stayed in front of the young man in Xingyi. It turned into blue light and disappeared invisible. The circles drawn by these two green sword lights in the air are 600 li squares, and the air currents that are brought all the way directly form two huge wind rings in the air, which are not scattered for a while. Seeing this scene, not only the monks in yellow shirts, but also the other monks in the white jade palace here completely changed their faces, and they swept out one after another. They all know very well that this young man in Xingyi is to confirm his identity. And these two green swords are condensed by genuine techniques. Xuanhuan is terrifying, and the distance is more than 600 miles. At the same time, these two spells are played. This kind of terrifying magic, except for the legend that has fallen apart from the monks, they really can't think of anyone else. And this kind of supernatural power, to deal with them, there is no need to pretend to be other people. The junior is Huan Qingdong's current suzerain, Xiao Qingzu, see Senior Wei. The yellow shirt scribes awe-inspiringly saluted Wei Suo. Lei Xiaozong, the current junior Lord Laming, see Senior. Fu Qingkaiu, the ancestor of the ancient sword sect, see Seniors. The younger generation left Zone Cen. The younger generation rises to immortality. The monks schemed out of the White Jade Hall immediately greeted them, saluting Wei Suo and Ling Longtian one after another. You don't have to pay much courtesy. I came here because I had been to Centipede Ridge before. I heard Su Lingfeng said that there were monks from Yuhang mainland nearby, so let's take a look. After all, I am also a scattered repairer of Tianqian continent. Wei Suo said nothing in his face, but he was not only sighed in his heart. When he was fighting for Jiyat and Hanwai Wei and Dunjiao Resort, he also wanted to escape from the city to take refuge, and he had seen many monks from Lei Xiao Zone before when he went to collect purple fox flowers. The strength of the southern part of Tianqian continent is one of the best. At first, those disciple of Lei Xiao Zone could not afford it, but now these patriarch-level characters, in front of him, are all self-proclaimed juniors, and they are extremely awesome to him. Seniors came for this matter, that's really great. Upon hearing Wei Suo say this, Huan Qingdong's sovereign Xiao Qingzu and others were overjoyed and happy. Yesterday we had more than a dozen monks killed by people less than 2,000 miles away. At the moment, Fu Qingkaiu, the ancient sword sect master, immediately greeted him. This is a tall old man wearing a bronze vest, with a stern look, carrying a broadsword with a black sheath, and the spirit of his body also condenses into the shape of a simple long sword. As he stepped forward to speak, the tall and mighty old man saluted Wei Suo again. We suspect that the monk of Yuhang mainland will make a move near Ri. Several of our ancestors suffered heavy losses in the beast shell. The other party was able to penetrate into our Tianqian continent. The comers are not good. We are still worried about losing the enemy. If Senior Wei comes here, we are completely relieved. A middle-aged monk wearing a white feather coat and looking very immortal also said this immediately. This skinny middle-aged monk wearing a white feather coat is the Lord of Shenxianzong. This guy has a good idea. I'm afraid you don't care about this. Let me say this first, the old man in green robe muttered in Wei Zhuo's ear. Do you know which ancestor of Yuhang's continent? Wei Suo looked at the monks in silence, then asked. Ashamed to say, except for the narrations of the few monks who fled, we haven't even seen the shadow of the other party, and we still don't know anything about the other party. so this makes us very afraid of the other party. Gu sect master Fu Qingqiu smiled bitterly and said. This is what Su Lingfeng told me. Apart from these, do you know anything about the specific situation of our heavenly continent and the gathering of heaven and earth spirits? Wei Suo did not have any nonsense. The green jade symbol given to him by Lingfeng was spotted in front of Fu Qingqiu. We have only found out more about the distribution of some monsters in the area of thousands of miles, and there is still no connection with other places, but the further west, the stronger the aura seems. The area we have discovered, he hasn't even reached the area with the strongest aura in heaven and earth. Fu Qingqiu scanned Su Lingfeng's green jade and looked at Wei Suo again. Many of you monks came from the southern part of the Tianqian continent. Have you heard about the Longshao City Spirit Beast Palace? Wei Suo nodded and asked. We don't know the situation of the Spirit Beast Palace in Wanshao City. At that time, we left at full speed, and we didn't even ask about other ancestors at all. It was just when we left that we heard that Lingyu City had been broken by the beast shell. Senior, why don't we talk in there? Seeing that Wei Suo didn't speak for a while, Gu Jianzong and other people immediately warmly invited. Wei Suo flattened the Tianjianzong, and he was unparalleled in the power of the Tianqian continent. In addition, he now has no physical wood and died, and the magical power is more powerful than when he broke the Tianjianzong. It is the real king, and he sits here. In the eyes of these monks, it is almost foolproof. Okay, Wei Suo's eyes flickered, and he didn't refuse. He nodded lightly. Senior, please. Seeing Wei Suo nodded in agreement, these monks were overjoyed, and they led the way excitedly, and indexed Wei into the hall where they had previously gathered. The power of Yuhang mainland is also estimated to be quite a lot. Please don't spread the news that I am here. Wei Suo and Ling Longtian chose a place to sit down at will, and then confessed to these monks. Okay, we naturally know that if they learn that the seniors are here, they may be scared not to come at all, and then the seniors will not be able to get useful news from their mouths. Nod. Just as Wei Suo and Ling Longtian had just settled in, these monks responded to each other. There were 200 or 300 monks in the sky about 5,000 miles west of the monk gathering point established by the ancient Jianzong. Flying towards this ancient Jianzong, headed by 4 men and 2 women, the 2 women were a white-haired old lady covered in a large black robe and a quaint gown with a golden head and shaking, looking very plump white lady. The remaining 4 men were black and thin old men, a dwarf who was only half the height of the others, a majestic man in jinyi, and a young man wearing a light yellow vest and a leica jade. The 4 men and 2 women headed by this are all transformed into various shapes, and they are obviously all Jindan monks. In particular, the aura of the white-haired old lady and the dwarf was the most amazing, with yellow skin and wrinkles on her face, full of white hair, glinting eyes, and the aura of the white-haired old lady who looked like an old ghost. The appearance of a burning mountain of white bones was the cultivation of Jindan in the mid to 4 stages. And the dwarf's black hair was tied into small braids behind his head. Although he was short, his hair was extremely long. Each braid was dragged under the heel, and the robes he wore were dark green. The above runes are all the appearance of some ancient soldiers, ancient gods, ancient axes, at first glance are ancient artifacts. The dwarf looked more than 40 years old, with a thin face and a brave face, but the spirit on his body was turned into a naked upper body above the head, holding a stone axe, and the spirit fluctuated. His breath is much more than that of the white-haired old lady. By Daiyu, almost, you sacrifice your Jingguang Tianyao banner. After flying hundreds of miles to the gathering point of the ancient Jianzong, the light of the highest dwarf shone in the eyes, and said to the majestic Jinyi big man beside him. Although the dwarf was short, his voice was extremely sharp, as if there was metal rubbing, very harsh. Senior Fang, you have to cover up here and there? Senior Fang and Senior Zhu are here. It should not take much effort to deal with these small schools, and you don't need to be so cautious. The gods were like jade, and the young men with sword eyebrows and eyes suddenly smiled and said aloud. Tianqian continent has many talents and strangers. Who knows what will change, cannot be taken lightly at any time. The dwarf glanced at the young monk and said this expressionlessly. Everything is listened to by the seniors in the room. The majestic Jinyi Dahan smiled slightly, and there was no pause to offer a silver translucent banner, which seemed to be made of some kind of strange crystal. There are 5 or 6 feet square, without any runes on it. After this large flag offering, a piece of crystal light spewed out, and the several Jindan monks and the 200 or 300 monks who followed were like melting out of thin air, hidden in this piece of crystal light. It really came about half an hour later, in the White Jade Hall where Wei Suo and others were located. Fu Qingqiu, the ancient sword patriarch, suddenly exclaimed. Among the scenes from the wall of the White Jade Palace, a strange light crystal appeared in the clouds on the far side of the west side, as if there was a huge layer of ice flakes flying in the air. You don't need to control me, but act on your own. If you are a monk who is low, don't send it out. I'm here. As long as the other party doesn't have the powerful divine profound power, I should be able to protect you. This piece of crystal light, Wei Suo did not stay. After saying such a sentence to the ancient sword sect master and others, the light flashed, and then disappeared into the White Jade Palace with Ling Longtian. Let all the disciples on the outskirts of the mountain come back. The voice of Sovereign Gu Jian was uploaded. Let's go, we will talk to these monks of Yuhang mainland immediately. This group of monks who were so focused because of Weizhuo and Ling Longtian's hiding in the dark, all plundered out. Asterisk. The next chapter should be Merry Christmas tomorrow morning. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 1012. Why, don't you even see it inside? In a cloud above the gathering point of the ancient Jian zone here, Wei Suo and Ling Longtianji produced a gauze-like magic weapon that enveloped the two people and concealed the figure. At the moment, going from where the two were, the piece of crystal light looming away from the opposite side, covering a distance of a few miles, made Wei Suo a little surprised that the golden light in the eyes of Ling Longsky could not see the crystal light. The specific situation in the magic weapon used by these monks of Yuhang mainland to hide their figures is still somewhat extraordinary, and some are beyond his expectations. Boy, they came out, but the other party didn't seem to have the meaning of a great fight. The voice of the old man in green robe also sounded. I can see that among the gathering points of the ancient sword sect below, the ancient sword sect master and others have all been swept out, and there are hundreds of monks who have cultivated above the divisional ideology. Before, after, and around, a variety of magic weapons and artifacts were sacrificed, and various brilliances were intertwined, which was extremely gorgeous. But at the moment, the crystal light in the distance has stopped, and a yellow mist like a demon cloud is pouring out, covering the sky and earth, and it seems that the situation is to gather this ancient sword section. The area around the 700 or 800 miles of dots is enveloped in it. Why, since you dare to invade our Tianqian continent, but you don't have the guts to show up and fight us brightly, are you the monks of Yuhang continent all so dreadful? Successful king defeated the enemy, such words, can survive to say. A sneer came out of the horse, the sound was very sharp, as if there was jing gold rubbing, obviously from the dwarf monk on the mainland of Yuhang. It's a pity that you are doomed to be miscalculated this time, and it is very likely that you will die in another country because of the previous Wei Suo's promise. The sovereign Gugu was extremely confident and responded with a sneer. Who? At the same time, a large forbidden building in the densely clustered buildings of the ancient sword sect below was also launched, and a green dragon-like wind column surged out of thin air, rushing towards the yellow mist coming from the sky. Is it? Yuhang mainland obviously didn't even have the idea of persuading the surrender, and after a sneer, the other party simply ignored the words of Gu Jianzong. However, the dragon-like blue columns of wind sent by Gu Jianzong were unable to disperse the yellow fog that diffused from it. The yellow fog became thicker and thicker, and soon covered the sky, even the sun covered completely, the whole sky was completely dark. Seeing this scene, the sovereign of the ancient sword played two auras, but the auras of the blue buildings and the blue auras formed among the various buildings below, which enveloped all the buildings in it. In the palace, there was also a thick white mist, and for a time, the yellow mist and the white cloud were completely intertwined, and the monks on the Tianqian continent could not see each other at all. Location: among the 4 men and 2 women headed by Yuhan mainland, a fist-sized yellow crystal ball was suspended in front of the ladylike lady who wore a simple purple palace dress. The brilliance emitted by the yellow crystal ball formed a light curtain for a week, and the brilliance on the surface marked the positions of all the monks on the Tianqian continent clearly. Although each light spot is an ordinary yellow dot, it is impossible to judge the specific cultivation method of the monk, but even Wei Suo and Ling Longtian did not escape the investigation of this instrument, and they were also separate on the light curtain. The 2 small light spots are obviously above the group of people who are the sovereign of the ancient sword sect. There are actually 2 monks hiding above this group of people. It seems that the identity of these 2 monks will still be above this group of people. Shen sighed. The white-haired old woman like the old ghost looked at the representative. The 2 yellow spots of Wei Suo and Ling Longtian said coldly in his eyes. I wish Daiyu, you release your soul-eating beetle first. Duan Daiyu, you release those 5 Huang Tianshen generals. Although he was short, his breath was the most amazing. The dwarf narrowed his eyes, nodded, and nodded to his side. Said the thin old man in green robe and black, and the young monk wearing a light yellow vest. Now release God Huang Tian, the young man in the light yellow vest slightly stunned, revealing the surprised god. Although Huang Tianshen will be extremely valuable, Master Sun can finally refine it. Would Duan Daiyu think this kind of treasure is more important than our seeing life? The dwarf monk glanced at the young man and said so coldly. Since Senior Fang said so, the juniors naturally obey. The young man in the light yellow vest stripped his lips, took out a nabeo, and stretched his hand a little. 5 yellow lights suddenly stood in front of him. These 5 yellow lights are awesome Jing golden puppets with double swords. These 5 golden puppets are all brass, with the appearance of a samurai in leather armor, but the body is about the size of a dwarf, only half the size of an ordinary monk. It's just that the cold breath of the 5 puppets is very strong. The whole body is faintly glowing with a reddish glow. From a distance, it seems that there is a light blood flowing, but if you look closely in this layer of reddish flowers, there are extremely tiny reddish patterns looming. The 5 puppets are all flat faces, with only 2 eyes, no facial features, and black paint in the 2 eyes, giving an uncomfortable feeling that cannot be expressed. At that time, the other thin old man in green robe and black clothes took out several things like slave bags without any nonsense. With the penetration of a real element, countless green light came from these slave bags. Among the things, silently flew out. This countless green light flew more and more, forming a green cloud in front of the black and thin old man in green robe. All the green light is Chingran's little finger-like singular beetle. The green light flashes throughout, and the outer shell feels somewhat similar to the shell of the spirit eater. Under the glance of the thin black elders, all these strange beetles dispersed silently and flew toward the direction where the ancient sword patriarch and other people gathered. The young man in the light yellow cassock took out more than 40 rounds in a hurry. The aura and the fluctuation of the demon are extremely fierce, and they all seem to be at least a high-level wind above level 6. Department of Demon Den. With the intrusion of a true Yuan, a piece of Jing gold carapace on the chest of the 5 sensuous Jing gold puppets opened, revealing a hole. This young man wearing a light yellow cassock put all the 40 high-level wind demon all into his hand. The sound of boom sounded softly, and with the reclosing of the Jing golden carapace, among the originally dark and dull pupils of the 5 Jing golden puppets, a faint blue light suddenly flashed, and immediately, the 5 Jing golden puppets immediately disappeared in the yellow mist in front. It is very strange that after the strange green beetles flew out, They also appeared on the light curtain of the yellow crystal ball of the palace lady, and I saw the dense yellow light dots toward the ancient sword lord. People's positions flooded in all directions, but these 5 Jing golden puppets poured out, but there was no trace on the light curtain at all, and they could not perceive it at all. Sister, you are talking about whether the old man is getting more and more timid, and Tianqian continent is only a few powerful monks, and it certainly will not appear here. These few things are all treasures. If they are bad, one thing is a huge loss. When the young monks in light yellow vests released the 5 golden puppets, they secretly preached to the noble lady. I said, brother, don't worry about these things too. Although these things are more powerful than the monks who are one of Jin Dan's heavy monks, they have to consume amazing wind demon Dan every time. Slow, there is no great use when alone against the enemy. As long as we take up all the land of the aura of the heavenly profound continent, ascending cultivation practice, is the right way. Wait for your cultivation practice to break through again and again. These Jing golden puppets are gone for you. The beauty in the palace dress laughed and laughed. The old man of the house is not awesome, you should not offend him. Sister said it very well, you said. My brother felt a lot more comfortable. The young man in the yellowish robe sneered scornfully and transmitted the sound to the nun's ear, but I did it with my sister. Some things are more comfortable. After the war, I hope my sister will take good care of my brother again. You have 3 concubines and concubines, all of them are beautiful and beautiful. How can you still be as old as me? The ladylike woman whitened the young man in the yellowish veil and smirked. And you are not afraid of you brother peeled your skin. Where can they compare to the elder sister's method? The elder sister's jade tongue wrapped in beads alone, they compare with one of them. It is boring. As for brother, elder sister, you should not tell him. Of course I won't. He doesn't have much fun, only knows brute force. Where can you compare with your little white dragon's tricks? The lady in palace dress and the young man in the yellowish garb spread the voice, and the more he said, the more unbearable. She talked to the young man wearing the pale yellow vest, but the lady in palace dress had a companion, the brother of the young man in pale vest, but the young man in pale vest steals secretly with her. Under such circumstances, the two still transmitted sounds. Obviously they were very sure in their hearts, and they did not take the Tianqian continental monks here in their eyes. It's some monsters that I haven't seen. It may be a new species bred by the other party. At this moment, the golden light flashed in Ling Longtian's eyes and said this to Wei Suo. What? A monk Guji Unzone from the periphery suddenly exclaimed. A green light flashed, and an aura mask outside him suddenly cracked. Asterisk. Today Lucia will take me to see the legendary ibex and crater, so the next chapter should be tomorrow morning. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 1013. When a bronze bell floated above this ancient sword sect monk's head, and the blue light spread out, and the green light that broke through his aura's light cover was knocked out and flew out. Be careful, these monks from Yuhan mainland released the monsters. In the blink of an eye, the monks of the ancient sword patriarch all flashed green light outside, and countless such peculiar green beetles struck like a storm. What? Many monks exclaimed. They were all besieged by several green beetles, their outer defenses were broken, and they were too late to stop. Wei Suo and Ling Longtian didn't shoot. This green beetle has a good ability to break the law, but to kill the monk, it still has to rely on the body to strike, and the power of its body to strike is almost only half spiritual. With the power of the ancient sword sect master, this group of monsters alone cannot be able to cope with it. Boom. Sure enough, as expected by Wei Suo and Ling Longtian, when these monks saw that they could not stop it, the sect master Lei Xiao suddenly burst into dozens of lightnings, and the electric mansions flew like dozens of electric whips. Whipped, all dozens of peculiar green beetles that threatened the monks flew out. Zheng. There was a sound of sword chanting. The ancient sword on the back of the patriarch of the ancient sword swiftly spun out, rotating around the periphery of these monks with amazing degree, forming a black aura, a large piece of green beetles were cut down one after another. These two ancestors of Tianqian continent, only two Jindan monks shot, they have stabilized their feet. These strange green beetles that fled silently came from all directions, like a rainstorm, but they were all caught. Blocked, none of the monks who came out to meet the Tianqian continent because of the existence of Wei Suo did not fall. There is something weird coming suddenly, Ling Longtian frowned and heard the sound in Wei Zhuo's ear. At the same time, Wei Suo suddenly blinked, his figure lowered almost 100 feet towards the bottom. At this moment when Ling Longtian was making noises, he also felt some strange energy flow, but when the consciousness swept over, it seemed to be a void, and there seemed to be something to prevent the exploration of the consciousness. Click. An ancient Jianzong's casual repair suddenly changed his face suddenly, and two cold lights suddenly flashed on his side, and at once he split all the magic shield he sacrificed and a red wooden drum-shaped magic weapon into two. Segment. When a black dragon-like sword light suddenly rushed in, blocking the two cold lights, but was immediately split off by the two cold lights. Sect Master Gu Jian's face also changed immediately, and he couldn't stop the blow with his flying sword. What makes many people breathe at the same time is that this one who emits two cold lights is actually a half-man tall, holding two long knives, and the strange blue light flashes in his eyes, which makes the hairy gold puppet. A fine gold puppet, even able to fight the ancient sword patriarch's flying sword with a blow, and still have the upper hand. And at the same time, there are several fine gold puppets who also hold double knives, and they all appear in the clouds that are rolling around. Seeing that the first one was cut into several sections by this kind of powerful gold puppet, in the cloud above, a horrible ghost claw shining with blue and black crystal light suddenly caught down and raised the statue at once. Adamantite puppet, put it up. Senior Wei. The strength of this kind of fine gold puppet is comparable to that of Jin Dan, and he was photographed with no power to fight back. The magical power of Senior Wei is really unimaginable. When I saw this scene, most of the unknown monks stayed for a while, especially the casual repairer who escaped from death was cold and sweating. I didn't know what happened, but the ancient sword sect master and others were all I couldn't help but glance at each other. My heart is all set. Yep. Above these monks, Wei Suo, who cast Xuanhuan ghost claws and took this fine gold puppet, immediately frowned. The power of Xiansha's ghost claws under his eyes is already far from the top level, but at the moment it seems that he can't catch the appearance of this gold puppet. The layer of reddish divine light emerging from the gold puppet, let the surface of his Xuanhuan ghost claws keep clicking, and some fragments fall from time to time. Ka Wei Suo whispered, and a soft sound, a pale yellow crystal-shaped Baolian out of thin air again, sealed this fine gold puppet who struggled desperately under his Xuanhuan ghost claws. I can't even suppress the magic of rotation. Wei Suo was a little surprised that the pale yellow crystal-like Baolian that he transformed had a crack almost instantly, and after the power of his Mahayana sound fell on this brass-colored fine gold puppet, this only the reddish divine light outside the brass-colored fine gold puppet broke down. After the whole body was shocked, all the glory disappeared and was photographed by Wei Suo. I'm afraid of refining this kind of gold puppet, at least it's at least the power of Shenqian triple or more. Although the attack power of this thing is almost the power of Jindan's first monks, but he needs to break this kind of defense. It's very difficult to damage it. Wei Suo just glanced at it, and immediately said with a dignified and Ling Longtian. Yes, the other party has at least a triple Shenqian, and can refining the weapon, and can enter the power of the pattern. Yep. At the same time, in the formation of Yuhan continent, the man who did not put the Tianqian continent in his eyes at all, secretly still talking with the young man in the palace in the yellow shirt suddenly changed his face suddenly. How? In secret with him, the lady in palace dress who was so full of spring in her eyes was surprised and asked immediately. There is a Huang Tian who will be destroyed by the other party. One has been destroyed, The dwarf monk's eyes also flashed coldly in the eyes, looking towards the yellow mist and the white cloud, which seemed to want to see something. This kind of pattern is very unique, with amazing shock-cutting power. If this Xiande can play this kind of pattern weaving power, I am afraid that it has a unique destructive power against the magic weapon on the other side. Wei Suo said. The blue sword light has already been cut to the damaged gold puppet that was photographed in front of him, and began to dissect this unique gold puppet directly. If this kind of fine gold puppet can be refined in large quantities, it is really amazing. If you can let the power of this refiner spit out the mystery of this pattern, if you also put this pattern into your body, then your body will add horror, said the old man in green robe. This is the wind demon pill? The gold puppets of this level can't really rely on the engraved circle, but is there any sect in Yuhan mainland that has such amazing research on the wind circle? Wei Suo issued a somewhat suspicious voice. After the engraved divine power was crushed, the carcass of this gold puppet was simply unable to resist the power of Wei Suo's ego sword. It was easily cut to pieces inside the gold puppet. The crystal column and some incomprehensible runes, a few pieces of Yaodan broken into pieces were picked up by Wei Suo, and there was obviously a strong wind demon lingering. This is the crystals of ancient puzzles. The crystals that the ancients were able to capture the meteors of the ancient puzzles. There are not many surviving crystals. Such fine gold puppets can certainly not be refined in large quantities. Ling Longtian grabbed one of them. The cracked spar gave Wei Suo another look, his eyes flickered, and he wanted to say more, but he could hold back some of the world since Wei Suo broke through to the 2 levels of Shenxian and cultivated into a fairy root. The induction of Reiki has indeed reached an alarming level, and it is only at this moment that Ling Longtian can be sure that most of them are the magic circle of the wind system, and Wei Suofang said it earlier than she did. Steel Teeth Girl, can you make sure that the godlike figure of the gold puppet is not destroyed? Wei Suo glanced at Ling Longtian, and asked quickly for him. If he wanted to come from the hands of the profound power, it is really not possible to get a pattern, but it is possible to infer the complete pattern from the pattern in the future. Humph! Ling Longtian snorted coldly, without saying anything, he swept down directly. I'm doing, Steel Teeth. Wei Suo rolled his eyes and almost fainted. The monks of the Tianxian continent were also dumbfounded. I saw that Ling Longtian had swiped directly in front of a fine gold puppet, held the double sword of that fine gold puppet with both hands, and then clicked, even directly in fine gold puppet's head, took a bite. A large hole was directly bitten out of the fortune puppet's forehead. The flashing blue light in his eyes disappeared instantly, but the reddish divine light on his body did not disappear. It was still like a layer of water usually wrapped around this fine gold puppet. Another lost. Ling Longtian took a bite of a hole in the head of this fine gold puppet, and the young man in the yellow shirt exclaimed in the group of monks of Yuhan mainland. Steel Tooth Girl, you are too fierce. Seeing that Ling Longtian flew back holding the immortal gold puppet, Wei Suo couldn't help crying. If you dare to say a few more words, I will destroy this puppet god's pattern. Ling Long Sky gave Wei Suo an expressionless expression and said. Wei Suo rolled his eyes, and he didn't dare to say anything. Under the blink of an eye, the remaining 3 fine gold puppets appeared, 3 light yellow crystal bay lions outside him, and then Wei Suo directly after playing several unique swords, the heads of the 3 gold puppets exploded, and the heads of the gold puppets were immediately slashed. The remaining 3 Huang Tianshen will all be destroyed on the other side of Yuhan mainland. The young man in yellow shirt suddenly changed his face suddenly and yelled out. Asterisk. I departed back to Wuxi today more than 1 o'clock in the afternoon, departed from Haikou to Shanghai at about 5 o'clock, and then rushed back to Wuxi non-stop, so there should be only 1 today, but tomorrow should be normal. Had a nice and relaxing holiday. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 1014. It's all ruined. The monk Fang's surnamed face suddenly sank. Did you make a mistake? The 5 gods Huang Tian will have mysterious feelings with me. How could it be wrong? The young man in yellow shirt shouted in surprise and anger. Huang Tianqian's defense is difficult to break even when several Jindan monks join forces. Even if we join hands, it is impossible to defeat all 5 Huang Tianqians. The cold light flashed sharply in the eyes of the monk Fang. The other party has great monk sits and withdraws. The dwarf monk was very decisive, and there was no stop at all for a withdrawal exit. He immediately turned and took the lead to leave. Not good. But in the blink of an eye, the lady in the purple palace dress exclaimed suddenly. Who is the other party, so amazing to escape? On the side of Yuhang mainland, everyone is discolored. This lady in palace costume still sacrifices the yellow crystal ball. Above the light curtain of the week, it represents the 2 yellows of Weizhuo and Ling Longtian. Small point, approaching them with an astonishing degree, each blink is at least 30 miles away from them. The other party must be the master who defeated the 5 Huang Tianqian. With such a terrifying escape, we certainly cannot escape and prepare to meet the enemy. Stop casting yellow gauze and see who the other party is. Everyone gathers together, don't disperse and inspire defensive magic weapon. The monk Fang surnamed Fang shouted loudly, and a blue banana fan was sacrificed. Whirring whirring. A huge scream of gusty wind suddenly rang from the ancient blue banana fan. More than 10 Yuhang continental monks holding a yellow jade flag stopped. As the yellow jade flag with many cloud patterns stopped, the yellow clouds that filled the sky and earth began to dissipate. I don't want to kill more people. You hand over the treasure bag and all the magic tools. I can spare you not to die just at this time. A young voice has spread to the ears of all monks on the mainland of Yuhang. The 4 men and 2 women headed by who are you, so daring to speak so arrogantly? Among the 6 Jindan monks in total, the majestic Jinyi Dahan suddenly sneered. Humph! A cold hum came through, and the yellow light spots on the yellow crystal ball sacrificed by the court lady no longer moved, and the other party seemed to stop, but at the same time this cold hum came from a long distance. This famous the sound of Jinyi Han suddenly shuddered, and arrows spurted from the mouth of this famous Jinyi Han. At the same time, this Jinyi Han was flying backwards, and he collapsed to death when he was flying backwards. All the spirits are completely disintegrated. Who still feels that I am not qualified to say this? I don't object if you want to die, but next time you shoot, I won't have anything left, the young voice continued, and the yellow cloud faded away. All the monks on the mainland of Yuhang saw a young man in Xingyi and a red-faced big man standing in the distance, very calm. What technique is this? Who is this person? Everyone in the Yuhang mainland was horrified. The other party snorted and slammed a Jindan monk directly into a coma, and no one else could stop it. It was really creepy. Your magical power is amazing. Dare to ask your name? Fang's short elder monk's eyes narrowed slightly, staring at Wei Suo and Ling Longtian closely, and asked aloud. Who is it? Do we have any hidden monks on our side? Dare they face up against all the monks of Yuhang mainland? At this time, the yellow clouds that were scattered in the sky dispersed, and many Tianqian continental monks above the gathering point established by the ancient Jian zone also vaguely reached the backs of Wei Suo and Ling Longtian, and many people also cried in surprise. Let's talk about which monk of Yuhang mainland you are talking about first. Wei Suo calmly looked at the monks of Yuhang mainland and said indifferently. We are the monks of the Tourmaline sect of Yuhang mainland. The monk of the dwarf surnamed Fang flickered slightly, but there was no nonsense. I don't know if you are a monk of the Tianqian mainland. You only need to know that I'm a casual repairer in the Tianqian continent. Wei Suo glanced at the dwarf monk. In addition to your Tourmaline sect, did Yuhang continent invade the Tianqian continent? Your Excellency is really when we are prisoners of the ranks, are you forced to ask? The monk Fang, who surnamed Fang sneered. From the perspective of the magical power of Fang Cai, it is presumed that it is the divine profound power, but I can tell you that RJ there are more than one divine profound power in Hung mainland entering Tianqian continent. Your Excellency is a cultivator. I think the best thing is not to participate in the battle between our ancestors, or simply join us in Yuhang continent. Achievements will not be discerned, we now have the absolute upper hand in Yuhan mainland. I don't like nonsense. If you can escape from my hands consciously, although you can escape now, if you don't think so, then obediently answer my questions, otherwise I don't mind making you like him. First we show a glance at the unconscious Jinyi Dahan, who was rescued by several Yuhan mainland monks. Don't think I can't see that the exercises you practice are all very different, just use a tourmaline sect to block me. If we all told the truth, did you really let us leave? The monk's face surnamed Xiao Wei changed his face and watched Wei Suo say so. I said that, leaving all your magical tools and treasures, I can spare your life and leave you empty. Wei Suo looked impatiently at the dwarf monk named. It is good. The short monk Fang clenched his teeth and nodded violently, apparently forced by Wei Suo, preparing Wei Suo to answer whatever he said, but at the same time he nodded violently. Beside him the breath of the thin black old men, the young men in yellow shirts, the ladies in palace dresses and the old women with white hair suddenly all skyrocketed. The scene in front of the eyes of Wei Suo and Ling Longtian suddenly changed. Where he was, he suddenly turned into a barren mountain full of bones and endless corpses filled with corpses. Woo, woo. A strange magic sound, directed at Wei Suo and Ling Longtian's mind. This guy actually swindled. This is such a powerful method of magic sound fantasy realm. Wei Suo and Ling Longtian reacted for the first time, and their brows jumped sharply. The magic sound illusion condensed by this technique is extremely amazing. It is impossible to see through Wei Suo and Ling Longtian's perception at once, just like being lost in a large array. Puff. Wei Suo did not stay at all, and directly started the virtual pace of the whole, as if wrapped in the sun, stepping out in one step. The heavens and earth became clear again, the endless bones and the earth disappeared and collapsed, and Wei Suo took the Ling Long sky to cross the void directly, and escaped from the area enveloped by this magic sound. Boom! Boom! But Wei Suo was suddenly horrified, playing 2 rounds of missing months at the same time, splitting himself on the left and right sides. 2 peculiar scarlet auras pierced through the void and collided with 2 rounds of missing moon. Wei Suo and Ling Longtian Fang were caught in the illusion, but they didn't see it, but all the monks on Yuhan mainland only saw it clearly. First, a ghostly white-haired old lady burst out of the head. White light, forming the appearance of a female demon sitting on the throne of white bones, while the dwarf monk with the surname of the house suddenly sacrificed a broken scarlet scroll, and then the vermilion scroll instantly weathered into fly ash. 2 scarlet auras emerged out of thin air. Whether it is the white-haired old woman with white light on her head or the dwarf monk who has inspired the scarlet scroll, all of them are instantly consumed, all his face becomes white, and the spirit of his body disappears quickly. Hidden. Laugh. At the same time a soft crack. The 2 scarlet auras and the 2 rounds of missing moon phases collided, but each of them just made such a soft cracking sound. There was no earth-shattering power at all. Only at the impact, the scarlet auras seemed to be flat. 2 space rifts were formed. 2 rounds of missing crippled moon flashed directly into the 2 space rifts, disappeared, and the 2 scarlet space rifts disappeared without a trace. The 2 scarlet auras and the 2 rounds of the crippled moon seemed to have never appeared the same. Large ancient chaotic flow volume. Ling Longtianru was struck by lightning, trembling unconsciously. This. Wei Suo's breath also paused, and a chill came out of his body after a loud cry. This is clearly an amazing ancient magical tool made by true immortals. Although the power has disappeared, but 2 mysterious and powerful true immortal breaths, but still in the void on both sides of him reverberate. This kind of ancient magical implement can clearly put people into some inexplicable space or turbulent flow in the void. If Wei Suo or Ling Longtian are hit, I don't know if they will be hit into the void. It may even be impossible to return to the Tianqian continent until it falls. If Fang Cai was not Wei Suo's Xuanhuan, he would react. Otherwise, even if Wei Suo's supernatural powers were hit, he would surely have been hit into the void without any accident, Just like the 2 rounds of the missing month, direct disappearance disappears, as if completely wiped out from the world. Ah, how is it possible? The monk Fang, who is also a surname of the house, is now breathing out all over his body, screaming unbelievably. Even the triple power of Shenxian, it is impossible to avoid this blow, but the other party just stiffly stopped. Abandoned ancient chaos, what is the origin of this? Wei Suo took a deep breath and watched Ling Longtian make a sound. Puff. At the same time, the dwarf monk named Fang coughed up blood and screamed and flew out. This is the magic weapon of Tianhuangwan. Tianhuangwan is also the real ancient and ancient chaotic flow of the forces on the side of the Huan clan at that time, which can turn out 72 chaotic flows of gods, interweaving the strong domain even if it is true. Xianzai Wei will be trapped in a void for a while. At the time of the war, there was a shocking figure in Belong who was attacked by this magic weapon. Although the magical power of that person would definitely be able to break through the chaotic flow and return to the field, but the battlefield the strength of the last moment, our side, but we lost a lot of unexpectedly there are such remnants of magic instruments left. Ling Longtian took a deep breath and transmitted the sound to Weizhuo's ear. Asterisk. After the vacation is over, I'm trying to get back to the state, and I'm recovering soon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 1015. 2011-12-2816:00:0132237. VIP Chapter Content, Subscription. The Perverted Ones Die. Wei Suo's voice came out again, and on the Yuhan mainland side, the black and thin old man in the green robe immediately vomited blood and flew out. At the same time, a monk who did not know what magic weapon was sacrificed had just escaped. Within tens of miles, he was caught up by a blue light, his head flew up, and the blood stained the sky. A horrible breath suppressed everyone in Yuhan Continental. For a time, 200 or 300 Yuhan Continental monks all dazzled, but they were all stuck in the air, and no one dared to move. Last move. The gray and black moon that this person hits is terrifying, making one of the voids tremble, and two at the same time. Is he? Did he wipe out Tianjianzong's? How is it possible that he had already become witty? At this time, many monks on the Tianxian mainland side also saw some clues, and they were all very shocked. The 3 of you, first hand over your Nabeo and all the magic tools. Wei Suoning stood still in the air, reaching for the old woman with white hair and the young man in the yellow shirt and the lady in palace dress. This group of 6 Jindan monks in Yuhan mainland, the rest of the 3 have been hit hard by him, only these 3 Jindan monks have combat power. I said I don't like nonsense. The white-haired old lady opened her mouth and seemed to want to say something, but Wei Suo glanced at it, and the white-haired old lady suddenly retreated in the air for 13 steps. Every step coughed up a bite of blood. All the aura collapsed. The young man in the yellow shirt and the lady in palace dress changed their faces drastically, and they dared not have any extra movements. They all stretched out their hands and pointed their Neobeo to Weizhuo. You hand over everything. There was no change in Wei Suo's look, and he put away the 2 treasures directly, and his eyes fell on the group of monks in Yuhan continent. A common-looking man, wearing a grey robe, didn't get much attention. On the monk. This ordinary-looking monk with a split mind suddenly changed his face. After a chill, he pointed out all the treasures in his body and the thing in his hand. A cyan ordinary Nabeo and a black bead the size of a pigeon egg flew in front of Wei Suo and Ling Longtian. Taiyan Miazu, a magic weapon close to the Xian order, is only one, and it is of no use. Ling Longtian glanced at the black and dull black magic bead and said. All the monks on the mainland of Yuhan were horrified again. The magic weapon close to the fairy order, the other party seems to feel sparse and ordinary, there is nothing extraordinary. Moreover, this monk on the mainland of Yuhan was very ordinary. The monks around didn't even know that there was such a magic weapon in his hand, but the other party could perceive clearly that he was in complete control of the whole situation. "All of you, please hand over your magic weapon," and Nabeo Weisuo's expression was very plain. After receiving the black Taiyan extinct bead, he looked at all the remaining Yuhang continental monks. An invisible huge pressure pressed on the hearts of each monk of Yuhang mainland. No one dared to defy, and all surrendered all the magical tools and treasures, even the short monk Fang, and by the Nabeo capsules of Falofu and others were searched out and handed over to Weisuo. "Wow, ha ha ha, Yuhang Continental has the most stone veins and various crystal mineral veins. This time it will definitely make a fortune. Boy, Yuhang Continental comes over to grab the territory of Tianqian Continental, otherwise we will simply run to them." Yuhang mainland went to grab it, the old man in green robe shouted with excitement at the sight of the piles of Nabeo. "Which ancestors of Yuhang mainland are you?" Weisuo ignored the old man in green robe and lit a yellow candle light in his hand. He looked at the young man in yellow shirt headed by others. "We are the monks of the Tourmaline sect and the Nether Earth sect of the Yuhang mainland." The young man in the yellow shirt looked extremely ugly, but he dared not have any nonsense, and replied with his teeth. "In addition to your two sects, what other sects have invaded the Tianqian continent with you?" Weisuo looked at the young man in yellow shirt and asked with a blank expression, "Or, which monks joined the Tianqian mainland this time?" "It is our Tourmaline sect, Ningtu sect, and Zhongtianzili sect that joined together to gather a total of 17 sects and enter the Tianqian continent together." The young man in yellow shirt spoke with confidence, unconsciously. "Since you have entered the hinterland of the Tianqian continent and come from the west, how much do you know about the congregation of the Taoist sect of the Tianqian continent and the spiritual aura?" After the sky dome collapsed, Weisuo did to the ancient sect master and others a gesture was given to the ancient sword sect master and others to march over. "It seems that you simply don't know anything about the outside world." Upon hearing Weisuo's question, the look of the young man in yellow shirt suddenly became more unconsciously arrogant. "To tell you the truth, you are the super sect of the Tianqian continent. The Dorsuan Fengmen and Jinwuzong have joined forces with us. Now most of the most aura area in the west of the Tianqian continent has already fallen under our control. Your super large gate of the Tianqian continent, except for the Yushanzong and Zixianyuan, in addition, other sect gates have been hit hard, and even the mountain gate of Zixuan cave has been completely defeated by us. Now we are the Tourmaline sect, the Nether Earth sect and the Celestial Purple Thunder sect, 3 sects, and the power of Xianfeng gate and Jinwu sect has forced to the area controlled by Yushanzong and Zixianyuan. Maybe just today and tomorrow, Yushanzong and Zixianyuan will either submit to us or be completely destroyed by us." "What? Xianfeng gate and Jinwu sect actually joined forces with the Zongmen of Yuhang continent? The mountain gates of Zixuan Dong Zhaotian have been completely broken. The outside world has already developed to such a degree." As soon as the young man in the yellow shirt spoke out, the Tianqian continent, whether it was Weisuo and others or the ancient sword patriarch who had gathered around, could not help but change color. "Although your magical powers are amazing, can one person be able to compete with so many sects and so many of us?" The young man in the yellow shirt suddenly became more proud of Weisuo and other people's complexion. "The monastic circles are all compliant with the heavenly path, and can survive in accordance with the general trend. You might as well join us. I told you that I don't like nonsense." Weisuo's expression froze and gave a cold look to the young man in yellow shirt. Poof! The young man in the yellow shirt had no resistance at all and flew back a few feet, spitting out a bit of blood. After standing in the air, his proud look disappeared, pale and frightened. "Your answer is of some value, so I just give you a lesson, so that you don't take my words as wind of airs. And, you are not worthy to say that in front of me." Weisuo looked at the young man in yellow shirt. After saying this coldly, he then asked, "Your 3 ancestors of Yuhang continent, a total of several divine profound powers, which are the divine profound strengths? How are they now?" 3 of our ancestors, a total of 3 divine profound power, I only know that my master has already reached the divine profound threefold. As for the other two divine profound power, I don't know what it is." Huang Shan, the young man, scolded Wei Suo in his heart, but he didn't dare to have any pause at all, and he answered with a trembling, "They are all rushing to the broken jade ancient territory." Suiyu ancient territory. Wei Suo and Ling Longtian glanced at each other. It was a place on the southwest side of the Tianqian continent. It was a little famous. It was probably the battlefield of the ancient monk wars. Fragments of jade and various mountain-shaped monoliths. So, the broken jade ancient domain is now the area controlled by Yushenzong and Zixianyuan. Wei Suo groaned a little. Now the whole Tianqian continent, where is the most intense aura, where is it? The area with the strongest aura is around the ancient area of broken jade. The young man in yellow shirt gritted his teeth and said. The movements of these large gates are fast. Ling Longtian sneered and talked to Wei Suo. It seems that there is a very likely place of spiritual veins in that place, so Yu Tianzong and 11 Xianyuan jointly took the place. Live, and these sects of Yuhang mainland are inevitable for that place. Now the forces of other continents should also be watching. If they are really in the same vein, the forces of other continents will certainly start to enter the robbery. When will you three Zongmen and Jinwuzong, Su and Fengmen arrive in the ancient jade field? Wei Suo nodded, and Xuanhuan talked with Ling Longtian, and then asked the young man in yellow shirt. The collapse of the sky dome has become the fuse of the war between the continents of the monastery. At present, it is completely inevitable. Since 150,000 years, the most turbulent era has come. Today will definitely be near the ancient jade area, the young man in yellow shirt replied somberly. 3 divine profound powers, plus Yexiancheng and Su Shenjun, the 5 divine profound powers, do have the capital to destroy one side, Wei Suo said to Ling Longtian. If you want to go, don't talk too much. Ling Longtian gave Wei Suo a very simple look and sneered coldly. Wei Suo smiled slightly, not much to say. Several green lights shot from his hands and hit the body of the young man in yellow shirt. Don't you say let us go, what are you going to do? The young men in yellow shirts and ladies in palace dress suddenly shouted in shock. I said that when it comes to nature, I will take you to the ancient jade area. As for the other people, you Daiyu, you should first control it, take care of it, and wait for 5 or 6 days before letting them go. As long as you cooperate, I promise you can leave safely. If you want to disobey, you Dao friends, you will kill it. Wei Suo's consciousness pressed, and then the spell was played, and the palace lady was also directly suppressed. The ancient sword sect master and others said. There is nothing to stop, Wei Suo, the dwarf monk and other 4 monk Jindan, all of them are also controlled, and they go directly to the ancient jade area. All the monks in the ancient Jian zone gathering place watched Wei Suo and Ling Longtian leave. Everyone knew that there was a tremendous storm in the broken jade ancient domain, which was gestating. Asterisk. Seeing that some book friends asked me to break out, let me take it easy for the first 2 days to relieve the fatigue after long journeys and seasonal changes. If you stay up late and fight hard, you may get sick and get more than you need. It has been updated, so in the past few days, we will change the stability to 3. After waiting for a while, there will definitely be outbreaks. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 1017. Zhongtianzai Liaizong's generation actually has 2 Shenqian mighty powers. Yuhang Continental Spirit Stone produces the most, and there are a lot of Shenqian mighty powers. Wei Suo and Ling Longtian kept moving towards the broken jade ancient territory, and along the way, he was not polite, and he kept asking the 6 Jindan monks he had captured. From the mouths of the 6 Jindan monks, Wei Suo learned many useful information. Of the 6 Jindan monks on the mainland of Yuhang, only the young man in the yellow shirt and the lady in palace dress are the monks of the Tourmaline section. Among the remaining 4 monks, the white-haired old woman is the monk of the sect of the Netherworld, and the remaining 3 people are all loose repairs solicited by the Tourmaline sect and the Mingtu sect. The monastic world of the Tianqian continent is now fragmented. The most important thing is that the delicate balance between the original large gates no longer exists, and the pinch between the main gates no longer exists. According to the rules, for the monks of Yuhang mainland, it has become a fragrant steamed bun. Many monks regard it as a big chance and want to share a piece of soup with the help of the big forces. In addition to the Zhongtian Purple Thunder sect, Tourmaline sect, and Nether Earth sect, Yuhang continent also has two super big gates, Xuanhuan Palace and Donglei Secret Realm. These two gates must also have the existence of divine profound power, but these two each sect is very ethereal, and its disciples rarely move around in the world, so the leaders of the Jindan monks in Yuhang mainland do not even know the specific conditions of these two sects. Through the white-haired old woman of the netherworld, Wei Suo learned that there are actually two gods in the netherworld. This time it was not the sect master of the netherworld, but the brother of the sect master of the netherworld, and another Suan Dakan. For these reasons alone, the overall strength of Yuhang continent's Super Buddhism gate is implicitly above Tianqian continent. No wonder Tianqian continent is in chaos, and these forces of Yuhang continent have already invaded the sky in an impatient manner. Xian mainland. Suan Fengmen and Jin Wuzong have been completely united with the three forces of Zhongtian Zilei sect, Tourmaline sect, and Nether Earth section. The condition is that if there are spiritual veins in the west of Tianqian continent, they will share the spiritual veins, and then lay down the entire Tianqian continent. Divided from south to north, the entire Tianqian continent from the south to the middle half belongs to the three major gates of the Yuhang continent, and the north to the middle half belongs to the Jin Wuzong and Suan Fengmen. Suan Fengmen and Jin Wuzong and the three major gates of Yuhang mainland are said to have exchanged many classics. The 5 Huangtian generals previously sacrificed by young people in yellow shirts are some of the masters of the Tourmaline school. Formation, prohibition, and finally made by the Tourmaline sect master into the pattern. Wei Suo even forced out the skills of the 6 Jindan monks. The harmony of the other monks was nothing to him, but the netherworld god wasteland of the white-haired old lady of the Mingtu zone is indeed a supreme strongman, which can not only form an illusion, but also emit magic sounds and disturb the gods. Knowledge, and with Wei Suo's cultivation at the moment, the illusion is enough to cover 100 miles. Although this technique does not directly attack the power, the enemy's first chance is indeed not comparable to the Mahayana, but if it encounters one or two opponents who have no solution, this technique is still very useful and can be obtained from Wei Suo. Emperor Tiandao's Emperor's Despair. It is also very troublesome for Wei Suo to perform this technique with a Shenqian triple opponent. Ganjiame, when you get to the place, you can go out in front of you, otherwise the two of us will appear at the same time. It is too easy to be recognized. Wei Suo was very trustworthy, and after consciously there was nothing to ask, the 6 Yuhangzong the monk Jindan was thrown in the middle of the way, and a ban was imposed, so that the 6 monks Jindan did not leave within a few days. The strength of Yuhang's mainland monastery community made Wei Suo decide to act low-key. His double xian is the most advantageous weapon of the Yin people. If the other party does not know his identity, he is regarded as a general Shen Xian monk. When confronting the enemy, there is no accident. Deficit. Unexpectedly, I woke up again, and actually ushered in such an era. Ling Longtian understood Wei Suo's intention and nodded, but said so to himself. I didn't think I was lucky enough to go through such an era, and it has become a real magical instrument. The old man in green robe was also very sighed and muttered. Wei Suo, who had left 6 Jinhan monks in the mainland of Yuhang, took a deep breath, looked at the barrenness of his eyes, and slowly spit out, and then continuously started a virtual walk in the hole, straight toward the direction of the ancient jade area. Ro. He knows why Ling Longtian and the old man in green robe have such a sigh. The sky dome collapsed, and the most turbulent era in the Taoist world in 150,000 years has begun. Even if the sky domes of the remaining 6 continents do not collapse, the chaos of the Tianqian continent alone, I don't know how many monks and sects will fall. The extra resources must be gathered into some sects, some people, plus the sky rupture, the influx of monsters and beasts, and the spiritual rebirth. I don't know how much more resources than the usual monastic world. This era is destined extraordinary, doomed to have extraordinary power. For Weisuo, he did not think too long at the moment, but his thoughts are surprisingly simple at the moment. Tianqian continent is his nest, where he and his parents lived since childhood, his nest, naturally, people who don't allow outsiders to say what they are. It's natural for him to grab the amazing aura. Even if he can't form an aura, he can arrange a few auras, so that Jia and others can practice it. In order to improve quickly, not to mention Yu Tianzong, Feng Wukang is still his friend. There are also Li Ruohe and Xian Yalan in the Spirit Beast Palace. The Spirit Beast Palace, who had received his warning early, will certainly not disappear in this accident. It should be done somewhere in the Tianqian continent. Well arranged. When he used to do small repairs in Lingyu City, of course, it was nothing, but now, if you want to divide up the Tianqian continent, you should also ask him if he agrees. The strength of this heaven and earth aura has reached this level. Even if the ancient sky dome metamorphosis, before the spiritual vein was cut off, I am afraid that only those legendary Daijiao mountain gates can have such a strong heaven and earth aura. Under such circumstances, the heaven and earth aura around the broken jade ancient domain is probably more than this. The more he moved towards the ancient jade domain, the more shocked Weizhuo, Ling Longtian, and the old man in green robe. Along the way, the heaven and earth aura became more and more thick, completely let Weizhuo and Ling Longtian, and the old man in the green robe feel the veins of the heaven and earth aura. The position of the broken jade ancient domain is indeed the center of the convergence of many spirits. To the place where the ancient jade is still 40 or 5,000 miles away, the concentration of heaven and earth aura has exceeded 10 times that of the original Haixian city. Among the wilderness, many originally ordinary flowers and trees even flashed aura. Gives people a feeling that many heaven and earth elixir will be born. This does not seem to be the current world of monasticism, but the spiritual land of some large gates in the legendary ancient world of monasticism. According to Weisuo and Ling Longtian's perception, the aura around the broken jade ancient domain is probably more than doubled in this area. If you practice in that area, I am afraid that one of the most common monks of the Shanhai realm can absorb more in one day. To the aura of more than 10 inferior spirit stones. Even if there is no one in the monastic world now who can arrange the gathering spirit array that the old man in green robe would have, if it is just the sacred array of the ancestors like the ancient sword sect, it can make all the monks who practice in this area. Entry is amazing. It seems that there has not been a war. After more than 20,000 miles, Weisuo slightly slowed down, and he was very careful and perceived every time he took a virtual step. There is no difference in the concentration of Reiki compared with their hunches, but there is no earth-shattering flame and fighting sound from the ancient jade area, and there is no violent energy fluctuation between heaven and earth. There should be no war. What's going on? Weisuo continued to move forward, and when the position of the broken jade ancient domain was less than 5,000 miles away, Weisuo, Ling Longtian, and the old man in green robe were startled. At this time, the wind and the sun, the ancient area of broken jade has been vaguely visible. There are not many monsters at all in this area, and it is revealed that the monk has a complete upper hand. The area is controlled by the monk. There is a large area of flashing light in the area of the broken jade ancient domain and outside the broken jade ancient domain, and there are obviously a large number of monks gathered. But in the distant sky, escape light appeared from time to time, seemingly rushing towards the ancient area of broken jade. According to the previous 6 Jindan monks from Yuhang mainland and the current posture, what gathered in an area outside the broken jade ancient domain should be the monks of Yuhang mainland. The Yushanzong and Zixianyuan should be it is in the ancient area of broken jade, but if the two sides have already confronted each other, a war will break out immediately. The Yuhang mainland side will definitely cut off the surrounding sky at least, and will not let Yu Tianzong and 11 Xianyuan's reinforcements stop. Arrived. Look at the situation first, and then you pretend to be a monk who is not the same way. Wei Suo and Ling Longtian did not stay at all, and moved separately, each gliding from one direction to the ancient area of broken jade. All the monks who came to Tianqian continent. Wei Suo concealed his true cultivation base. When the distance from the broken jade ancient domain was less than 2,000 miles, Wei Suo thoroughly looked at it. From time to time, it seemed that they were all Tianqian. The monk of the mainland. In the ancient jade field, 5 or 6 large auras of light spread out, covering at least 500 or 600 square meters, covering several small hillheads inside, and at least hundreds of monks flying outside the aura of light skim. The monk of the Tianqian mainland who came here did not enter the area shrouded by the aura of light, but walked towards a valley in front of the ancient broken jade domain. Opposite that valley, above a mountain, a huge green aura mask was also propped up. The spirit inside was soaring. I don't know how many Yuhang mainland monks exist. Among the valleys formed by several low hills, the brilliance flashed and it seemed that an amazing number of monks had already gathered. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Reading URL for mobile version.